Go for it, Paul.
All right.
We're live on YouTube. Good morning.
Right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 1 Million Cups in Albuquerque, meeting at 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, every Wednesday. 1 Million Cups is a program sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation to facilitate connection, presentation, and education among entrepreneurs. So here's our mission. Our mission is to lower the barrier of access to education and for entrepreneurial resources and help facilitate connection for new and aspiring entrepreneurs all throughout the United States. And 1 Million Cups is present in almost 200 chapters across the US, meeting at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays, local time. So here's our mission, how we work to that. So we have a consistent program. If you ever go to 1 Million Cups outside of Albuquerque, you'll find the format is the same and people have been coached in the same ways, and you'll recognize the format of the pitches. So Kauffman Foundation provides a standardized format for presentation, and they provide guidelines for coaching so that there are no strangers in 1 Million Cups. There's only friends you haven't met. And although the program is the same, we do recognize that every community is different and every community has something unique to offer. So if you've presented at Million Cups in Albuquerque, I'd strongly recommend presenting elsewhere, especially when many places are still operating in virtual or hybrid mode, which would allow you to present remotely. So speaking of that, we're the only 1 Million Cups chapter in New Mexico, but in the rest of the Southwest, there are plenty of other chapters. I've presented in El Paso, Amarillo, and Lubbock, and I know that they're friendly and they follow the format, but I've hardly tagged all the bases in the Southwest. So I encourage you to explore those other chapters and see what those communities might have to offer you as an entrepreneur.
Can I ask a question? Do
Sure.
we have any location in Arizona? I didn't see Arizona.
Yeah, well, Arizona is not on this map as
okay.
a Southwest. So yes, I'm sure there are locations in Arizona. Maybe they get lumped with California for West Coast. I mean, it's a long drive to the beach from Prescott, but I think.
Okay, so I guess the question is there a location that we do not have? Maybe that's about a question I asked.
You mean it's a state with no chapter?
Right, a state with no chapter.
I don't know that for a fact, but my guess, the answer would either be no, or if it is, it's one of those states with more representatives than there are senators, or more senators than there are representatives.
Annie, you can get that information by going to the 1 Million Cups website. You can see all their chapters if you just log in there.
Okay, I'll go do that. Thank you very much.
Sure. So here are the pillars. Presentations, not pitches. So most entrepreneurs are used to doing pitches to potential investors and people being industry partners. And in a pitch, you're flawless. You're the unique opportunity they'll never see again in their lifetimes. And you're not really asking for help. You're asking for their cooperation. And in a presentation at 1 Million Cups, you're kind of turning that around backwards, and you're showing a little bit of your vulnerabilities. You're talking about your challenges and the speed bumps you've hit along the way, and you're looking for help and advice from the community. So those are presentations where you're soliciting advice from the community. So those are authentic connections. They're not networking. We're not just speed dating and trading business cards. We're actually trying to figure out what we can do for each other to lift up this community. And we're radically and intentionally inclusive. We strive to have diversity in presentations, and that includes diversity with respect to, are you a startup or are you a mom and pop brick and mortar kind of business? We've had a few of those in there, and those are always fun. We tend to focus more on the startups, and we have to tack away from that whenever possible. And we certainly appreciate any suggestions that people have for presenters. And speaking of presenters, if you have a small business and of some kind, and you've sold something to someone who's not your mom, you're eligible to participate in 1 Million Cups. We'd like to hear about how you got started, how your business works, how you make money, but especially the challenges you face going forward and the kind of help you might want from the community. It's easy to apply. You go to the 1millioncups.com/Albuquerque site cited below, upload your logo, answer a few simple questions, and you're put into a hopper where you'll be assigned a coach, and we'll schedule a presentation and give you a couple of coaching sessions before that presentation. So it's really easy. We also like people to come back after a year or so and let us know how things have been going. So if you haven't done this yet and you've got an eligible small business, please sign up. Okay, it's also time to thank our organizing team. I'm Paul Sauter. Lisa Atkins and Sonia Dewing are our co-lead organizers. Eric Renz-Whitmore, Bob C. Sanandale, and Charles Garrison round out the team. So a big hand for all of those folks. And all of us are very approachable. So if you can't handle the 1 Million Cups Albuquerque website, try getting in touch with one of us individually, and we'll be happy to guide you. We'd also like to thank our sponsors. Looking forward to meeting in person again at Fat Pipe, which has been fabulous for us, and now they have more locations. We like to thank Loza and Loza intellectual property attorneys. If you have an idea you need to protect, they're the guys you need to talk to. More Than Organized with Miriam Ortiz-Pino. Jason Collin Photography, always making us look good even when we're on Zoom. And Noventum Custom Software Development, which back in the old days used to buy us donuts, and they're going to have donuts for us when we get back in person again. So thanks to all of our sponsors. We couldn't be here without them. So I'm going to hand this, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand this back to, take it away, Eric.
That last word was kind of swallowed, so I was in real suspense, which is great because we have the Women Thrillers Writer Association in the room. But it's me, unfortunately for y'all. Eric Renz-Whitmore here in Albuquerque, and I was the coach sponsor for Alex and Circa. And I'll just say, it's exciting. As Paul mentioned, we love to have a variety of different companies share their stories here with the 1 Million Cups crowd, from the main street to the startups. But I know many of us kind of have a special love for the startup scene. So it was really cool to see a new company that I frankly hadn't heard of until I heard Dan was getting a new gig. Dan Heron, a real community evangelist here in Albuquerque. Exactly, applause. Until he was getting a new gig for a new company that was getting some good funding out of Santa Fe. So many of us, many of us at least here, have done events online. We've done a lot of different events, both before, in person, before COVID, of course, now online during COVID. And we're interested in seeing how that all plays out when things kind of normalize a little or become whatever they're going to be. So I think it was really exciting to see an event management platform that was based here in New Mexico, because I know I'm always looking for a new platform to explore and potentially use for some of the events that I'm involved with. So we're particularly excited to have Alex join us here this morning with Circa, and he'll tell you a little bit about his journey and the company and moving to Santa Fe and all that good stuff. And take it away, Alex.
Great, thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Excited to be at a community gathering for New Mexico like this, and thanks to Eric and Dan for putting it together. So I have a few slides. It's not a pitch. I think it's a community of business builders, and wanted to share a little bit about our experience as a startup that has moved to New Mexico and found success in pivoting. So I'm going to share my screen here. Can you all see my screen? Okay, great. So yeah, Circa's story is that we are basically Moneyball for event marketing. If you're familiar with that movie, or sabermetrics, which is kind of a new way to play baseball using statistics. And the story of baseball is a lot like the story of in-person event marketing. For a long, long time, decades, companies would go to the same events every single year because they felt they had to be there. Their partners, the press, their customers would be there, and people would raise an eyebrow if they didn't spend all this money and show up. And talking about companies that would go to hundreds, thousands of events a year, spend upwards of $25 million a year on event marketing. And these are events that are customer-facing events. They're not internal team-building events. And they're really a cornerstone of B2B sales and marketing. So 77% of CMOs would point to this budget of this big slice of their marketing budget as being the hardest to track in terms of ROI. 77% didn't have confidence in the ROI they were getting from spending all this money on events. And for a long time, it was just considered a given in the world that you had to go to all these events and spend a lot of money, and you might or might not get ROI. It's really hard to prove. Then this thing happened in 2020 called COVID that we all know, and basically cleared every in-person event calendar in the world. And it's a completely unprecedented event not to have any B2B events during the year, and companies really had to adapt quickly. Our company was at the time known as Event Geek, and we did in-person event logistics. We basically lost all of our business. This was about this time last year, May 2020. There were no in-person events. Companies completely stopped planning them. Initially, it looked like we were going to get back in it. It's going to take a few months to get through COVID, but as it became clear that it was going to be until 2021 or even later, we really started to churn a lot of our mid-market customers, and we lost a lot of business. At the same time, virtual events completely exploded. All of that money and attention that would go to doing in-person went online. If you look at Google Trends, you can see how search terms for Google for virtual events grew 1,000%, and we all know the story about Zoom. It grew over 10,000% on Google Trends. So in this big transition, we actually gained the visibility into the data that we need to track ROI. And it's with that insight that we hunkered down and relaunched Event Geek as Circa. And what we do now as Circa basically is run machine learning across all of the event data that a company has and help them drive more B2B sales. So when a company signs up, they connect their Zoom account, they connect their Salesforce, we pull in all of the data, we analyze it, and then we make recommendations like who they should be inviting to an event that they're hosting or targeting at an event that they're sponsoring or exhibiting. If the recommendation is to host an event, what the topic should be about, what type of event. It should be more of a round table where prospects can hear from existing customers and get some confidence and social proof, or if it should be more of a lead generation event where they need to fill the top of the funnel, and it's more about awareness than it is about influence. Also, geographically, these companies have a lot of data on their customers, including where they live, their addresses, and so on, where they work. And as we get back into doing in-person and hybrid events, there's the question of who to invite in person versus who to invite online. These are all the sorts of questions that we can answer and basically close the gaps that the event marketing team wouldn't otherwise catch because they're so busy and not necessarily equipped to do data analysis. And this ultimately results in driving 40% more sales opportunities for our customers. So it's a really strategy. The strategy is really geared for this moment and this time that we're in now, where we have a new era for event marketing, where we have a lot more data thanks to online engagement, and it closes a lot of the gaps we've been missing for a long time. So that's what we relaunched with as Circa back in August, and we've been continuing to build on that theme. This is a representation of our revenue. In 2019, we'd grown the business over 4 years as Event Geek, or 3 years at that point, to somewhat good revenue. 2020 hit, we had lost almost everything, and now at 2021 we're already ahead of where it took us to get over 3 years. So we're growing much faster now. At the same time that we relaunched the Circa, we moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and there were a few drivers for that decision. First off, we were in the Bay Area before, San Francisco Bay Area, and the cost of living and housing there is very, very high. So it wasn't, that as a result, salaries need to be very high. So it wasn't, we got a competitive advantage to be in the Bay Area, especially given that COVID really accelerated the trend towards hybrid and remote work. And especially in engineering, a lot of talent is looking to work at least on a hybrid basis and not go into an office every single day. So why pay for this very expensive house in the Bay Area when you're only going to be going in the office a couple of times a week? It didn't really make sense to stay there. And then moving out of Santa Fe, choosing a place to live, we looked at Santa Fe, New Mexico, as well a bunch of other options, and decided on Santa Fe because we think it's really undervalued in terms of all of the outdoor cultural activities. It's also got a really long history as being a really desirable destination. They have a long-standing campaign for the city tourism, running the city is the city different. And we tapped into this as well, not just for recruiting and finding people who'd love to live and work in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but also for hosting our own events as we're planning to do that later this year. And then last but not least, there's really solid economic incentives to relocate or start a company here in New Mexico. The programs like JTIP have been helpful. So yeah, that's our story. And now we're at a stage where we're hiring. We have an office here in Santa Fe next to the plaza. We're looking for several roles. So if anyone's interested, feel free to reach out to myself or Dan. But yeah, that's our story.
Glad to have you in. Oh, I'm muted. Glad to have you here in New Mexico. Thanks for presenting and sharing. Let's see. So we're going to get into questions in just a second here. If you do have a question, please go ahead and put that in the chat, and we'll usually just bring folks sort of up on stage to ask those questions. I think one of the questions that I still got is, I see the integration. So it feels like companies that already have a handle, already appreciate data, are going to be kind of some of the customers you work best with. But can you tell us a little bit more about, who's your ideal customer in this phase of your growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So our customers are larger companies that have hundreds and thousands of marketing events a year. So we're not like a Zoom or Eventbrite in the sense that we have a lot of relevant features for smaller companies, SMBs, or nonprofits or associations and stuff. And that's part of what our challenge is like an enterprise software companies kind of filtering through the noise to really connect with our ideal customers. But they're larger companies that spend millions on marketing and go to hundreds of thousands of events a year.
Cool. And let's see. So I know you. Let's see. And I'm not sure if I missed it. So I know, or I believe that the Arrowhead Fund invested in you all. I'm trying to think of, how is the New Mexico environment around funding? Has that been something that helped attract you here, or was that you were already choosing to move here and then they come on? How did that part of things work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the New Mexico startup and early stage startup investing community is fantastic. It's very small, but it's very high energy, very positive. People are very smart and savvy. Yeah, I was really impressed with the caliber of people that I met through our fundraising here in New Mexico. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow the ecosystem, and there's a lot of talented people working on it, but it is still relatively small. Most of our funding actually came from the Bay Area, but we did find some great angel investors in the Arrowhead Fund, as you mentioned.
That's very good to hear. I see that John Mertz has a question in the chat. John, can you ask that question, please?
Sure. Hey, Alex, how are you? Good to see you again. So just curious how you all are dealing with data privacy concerns. I mean, there seems to be more heightened concern around that. So, and part of your platform value obviously is getting access to that event attendee data. So anyway, just kind of curious how you as a company are kind of dealing with that issue and handling that for your end customers as well.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great question. It always comes up. It's extremely important. We take it very seriously. We have lots of controls and infrastructure in place to protect our customers' data, privacy, and security. We are SOC 2 certified and compliant with GDPR. and CCPA, which are all regulations ensuring data privacy and security. Our perspective on data privacy today is that, our customers own their own data, and there's like no intermingling whatsoever. If, company A and company B have, there's no crossover. We don't, kind of anonymize and aggregate and report back on the data. The only use that we have for the data is improving the delivery of our service to that customer. But this is web analytics and so on that deal with user activity and data in terms of non-personally identifiable information. So we take it very seriously, and right now it's just, there's kind of a firewall between all of our customers' data, and we don't commingle it or anything like that. As a result, this also means that in order for us to run our machine learning on the data, the company needs to be large enough to have enough data. So a company that's doing hundreds of events a year, spending millions of dollars on event marketing will typically have, hundreds of thousands, even millions of rows in their CRM. And that's kind of the requirement that we would need to do machine learning. So that's really, data privacy is really, embedded into what we do and into our as we.
Trying to think of, I see I don't know, I'm enjoying the trade show behind you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is just a green screen. So when we talk to our customers, we would bring up their backgrounds and so on. So talking to like Elsevier, or have one here from New Mexico, so it looks like the view out our window and so on.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I see TJ in the chat's got a question for you.
Yeah, Alex, great to see you. So compared to last time we chatted, maybe eternity ago, like 2 or 3 months, what's the signal you're seeing with the customers, with now that, we definitely feel in New Mexico, a return to some type of normal, but not business normal, maybe travel normal, consumer wise and stuff like that. But yeah, what's in the cards? Where are you feeling like Circa can be best in the world and carry this momentum forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like 2 questions. Like, one, where are we headed as an industry in terms of like in person versus virtual, and 2, like what's Circa going to be known for in 2 years? So the first question is, I think we are in the backlash phase of virtual events, which is to be expected. So, we all had to switch to virtual and couldn't meet in person for 13, 14 months because of COVID. And now people are like really excited to get back into meeting in person. And, people are saying like, oh, I never want to do a Zoom or a virtual event again. But as we get out, 6 to 9 months, and I think people are kind of, gotten to meet in person, and the excitement around that has maybe worn off a little bit. And they're, doing the calculation between like traveling to an event or attending virtually, we'll see virtual bounce back. And I don't think it will be as predominant as it's been in this artificial environment that we've had for the past 14 months, but it will be bigger than it's ever been before, and it will continue to grow and grow faster than in person. So we're in the backlash phase right now, and I expect that'll probably last until Q2 or Q3 2022. In terms of what Circa is going to be known for, I think it's the same as our pitch tagline, which is Moneyball for event marketing. Another phrase that we've been using is event marketing on autopilot. We've also looked at, like the event marketing cloud, but it's going to be around taking all of the data that you have around events and attendees and customers and analyzing it with machine learning to drive greater ROI and to assist with closing blind spots and making decisions that you wouldn't otherwise. And that's definitely still our mission. It's kind of inevitable whether Circa is the company to deliver that or not. If you look at the other marketing channels that are out there, whether we're talking about like digital marketing or content, they've all embedded machine learning in the strategy level, at the budgeting level. And events is, one of the primary marketing channels, doesn't have this yet. Why not? Well, certainly it's because we haven't had the data. Now we have the data, and whether it's Circa or some other company, there will be a company that is basically the autopilot system for event marketing, and we're planning to be that company.
Let's see, I think I saw Paul had a question.
Hi. So this has been fun. I've been a victim of virtual meetings for the 66 weeks that we all have. And, I'm also an organizer for, besides Million Cups, for another event. And we've heard feedback from people who say they stopped going to the virtual meetings because they couldn't do what they like to do at the real ones, which is work the back of the room and have random encounters with people and have engaging conversations. And I've been at some virtual symposia where they attempted that through breakout rooms, and certainly it was organized by amateurs, and basically it didn't work. So part of improving the utility of virtual meetings is having that ability to work the room and have these random encounters and have these sustained conversations. Do you have an answer to that problem?
Yeah,
if not, thanks for listening to my gripe.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think we all have Zoom fatigue now, and there's a lot less willingness to experiment with virtual like there was back in April and May, when people were super excited about the possibility, saying we'll never, we may never go back to in person. And we had this like just tidal wave of virtual event companies coming on board. So I think we're still very early in virtual events, and I think it's inevitable that there will continue to be in virtual events and that they'll continue to grow. The economics of it are just so compelling. And I also think it will never be as good as in person in terms of that face-to-face, human-to-human interaction. I think we're just like biologically hardwired to trust people more when we meet them in person. But there is a lot of room in the middle and a lot to figure out in the middle, and there's a lot of companies working on that. And what we've seen over the past 66 weeks has been a lot of experimentation, and some stuff's worked and some stuff's not worked at all. And at the same time, attendee sentiment around virtual events is ebbed and flowed. So as we get out of this crazy period and have a period of normalcy sometime around, I think like next year, this time next year, we're going to see the virtual event forms, the user experience forms that are effective, kind of establish themselves as being an ongoing model for engagement and continue to grow.
Well, we've got also, so Miriam and then John for probably our last couple of questions.
Hi, Miriam Ortiz-Pino with More Than Organized. I recently attended the NAPO conference, and we actually had this cool networking thing. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I can find it later, where it was like a virtual lobby. And then you could go into a networking room and there were just tables, and it was like a map of tables, and you could see who was sitting at each table, and there was various levels. And that almost got there to the hangout here, but it took us a couple days to figure out that we could say, hey, meet me on the 3rd floor, table 6. Yeah. But it actually was kind of cool once we figured it out. And it was way better than the breakout rooms where people are just kind of baffled as to why you're all staring at each other.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different companies, a lot of different kind of user experience models out there, a lot of experimentation, and some of it works and some of it doesn't work. And not everything should be on Zoom for sure. A lot can be like that. I think this is a good format. We have how many people here, and it's kind of a meeting, right? Like there's some presentations, some slides, some discussion, Q&A, but But this isn't the right format, for everyone. If I wasn't here and this was just a networking event, probably you're like everybody just kind of looking at each other and trying to have different conversations in one big Hollywood Squares board probably isn't the best UX format. So
Right.
yeah, it's events are a media channel, like events are a type of media, right? It's like writing or video, and there's lots of different forms that can take, and not one tool or company is going to be own all of that. And that kind of plays into the Circa strategy, not to promote our own stuff too much, but we're not a hosting platform, so we don't have any video element where we could set up an event like this, and we're not really attendee facing. We're more like the strategy. So what type of experience should you deliver to what customers at what point?
Right. And I think part of that too is asking the right questions. So people are like, I have Zoom fatigue. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Are you sick of being interrupted and having to get dressed? Or are you actually not interested in the topic? Or are you not interested in the people that are at the event? Like, it seems like that is one of those catch-all phrases that doesn't mean a whole lot when you're trying to solve a problem about it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So ask more questions. More and better questions up front, and get what people's desire is. Like, why are you having the event in the first place is always a great place to start, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think we've got, John Mertz and then TJ.
Yeah, sorry, just another question. I'm just kind of really trying to hone in, I guess. So what's your value for customers navigating between those in-person and virtual events? Because that's obviously, as things begin to lift, that's where the world's going to go back to in many cases. But really kind of looking what's the key differentiator that really gets your customers or prospects' attention as you're entering into new deals?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you mean like, do they think of us as like a virtual or an in-person platform?
No, I mean, so if I'm your customer, why would I even talk to you? What's your key value for me as a VP of marketing that is working with virtual and in-person events?
Well, I think where we've seen a lot of traction is this VP of marketing is getting pressure from their chief financial officer not to spend the same amount of money on events again this year. And instead of going to the 500 events that they went to for decades, the CFO saying, you're only going to go to 100 or 200 in person, and the rest you can figure it out because you did that during COVID. So, virtually. So which 100, 200 do you want? And the VP marketing, says, okay, well, let's take a look at the data, and then isn't able to get the data. And so having all the data in one place in annual and semi and quarterly decision-making process around putting the event calendar together, that's what we do. So we help them put together, predictive ROI so that they can spend less and still hit their growth targets.
So kind of the ideal customer then is a company that's involved in 100+ events a year is kind of what I'm.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Less than that.
And that's really a minimum. It's ideally more like 500, 1,000 companies. So it's an enterprise play for sure. We don't we disqualify companies, smaller companies that don't do enough events, or nonprofits, associations, and so on. We don't even talk to them. I mean, we wish we had something for them, but it's just not what we do.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Makes sense. And TJ, you've got the last question.
Oh my gosh. So I understand, like Dan put in this link to all of the event tech on the experience side, but who's coming up? Who are you excited about, daunted by on the event data, that the Moneyball side, other than Circa?
Absolutely. So there's companies that we don't think of our competitors as like hosting tools like delivering the attendee stream. So we think of our competitors as like B2B optimization tools. And I don't know if folks are familiar with like Marketo or HubSpot, but there's like a new generation of marketing automation tools, companies like Clary and 6sense that pull together all the data and make recommendations on, accounts to target, marketing activities to target them with, which includes events. And we think of them really as our competitors. And our key differentiation with them is like, hey, in-person events are basically the center of gravity for B2B marketing. They're the most expensive, but they're also the most valuable. They have the highest ROI, at least intuitively from the marketing team, which is why they continue to invest even if they can't prove that ROI. And they're also a forcing function. As an event, they're temporal, they have a start date. And so there's a lot of other marketing activity that revolves around them, like a launch event. You have not just the event marketing team, you have PR, you have social, you have community, you have digital, paid digital, all of that stuff kind of orbits around the start date of a live event. And so our differentiation against these kind of next generation B2B marketing automation tools that use machine learning like Clary and 6sense is that we understand the center of gravity and the rotation of the universe better than they do, because we've been events at the center of our platform. And so right now, actually, we just do events, but as we look to next year and beyond, we want to use events as this event-centered marketing, basically where all these other things are evolving around events, and we're doing this kind of next generation B2B marketing automation, but with in-person events as the center.
Nice. Well, thank you. We want to thank you for your time. Are you able to stick around for, we have some breakout rooms, and I've got my famous last two questions that we ask every week. Awesome. So the first question is hopefully easiest question, which is red or green. which do you prefer? State question.
Oh, red.
Red.
Although
okay.
I mean, it depends on the chilies, but yeah, red. If I don't know, like what.
It depends on the season. It depends on the
food.
There's
a lot of factors, right? It's
all right.
One of those business school answers. It depends.
And let's see the other one.
Equal red.
So okay, so breakfast is set. I love it. And what can we as a community do to help you and your business move forward?
Great question. Thank you for asking. I think, if you would follow us on social and, like and repost any of our stuff, and, we'd be happy to do the same with your organization. We're excited to be part of the local New Mexico startup and business community, and looking to support however we can.
A little round of virtual applause. We want to thank Alex and Dan also for helping out. Good work there in the chat with lots of information there, Dan. Let's see. I think we want to do wins in a minute or two with Sonia. So let's see. And I'm going to just hit and share a couple different events in the chat as well. So let me do that. Just a second. And I will run these down. All right.
Well, while he's running those down, you guys think about if anybody out there has any wins that they've had recently. Think about that. Ooh, Paul's got his hand up already. I like it.
Oh, good. Well, I'd love to see more wins. I'll just mention, I'll hit some of these pretty quick. So Taza every Thursday morning from 9 to 10, still online. That's through Facebook. That's in the chats. In addition to that, I know a number of folks were pretty excited about Co-Founder Fiesta. That's been moved back with Activate A&M and a number of other good partners. Let's see, in the room here today, John Barney is going to talk on Adam's Friday Flow this Friday morning about moving from Microsoft to the cloud and other places. A couple other things. It's Pride Month in June, which is just right around the corner. And let's see, there's a free citywide diversity training, Transgender 101, and that's taking place on June 3rd. Also, there's a lot of great events that New Mexico Angels are doing, including an investors roundtable on June 4th. I'm involved with a little hackathon involving both the City of Albuquerque and New Mexico Foundation for Open Government. If you care about or are interested in public art and want to help folks engage with public art in the Albuquerque area, I recommend you join us on the 12th and or the 19th of June to help see what different public art we have available and to improve the way that people in the community engage with it. If you've got events and activities, I hope you share them with us. Also find us on LinkedIn. And I think that's all I've got for right now.
All right. Well, in that case, so if anyone has any wins, I'll share mine, and then Paul will go next. But I just launched the Women Thrillers Writers Association last week, and I already had a member. I already have more members since last week, so I'm excited about my business. So thank you all for letting me present last week. Paul, you're up next.
Okay, I'm going to airbrush this a little bit because there's going to be a formal announcement at some point in the future. But an industry partner of ours, that is another business that's a lot bigger than we are, has agreed to fund one of our collaborators to the tune of $100K. So that is going to be a real advance for us, and look for that as a big announcement when it comes. Thanks.
Congrats, Paul. All right, anybody else have a win? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just we closed out our early stage idea program. Eric was a part of that, and we had 13 entrepreneurs pitch a couple Saturdays ago. They all did just a wonderful job. In fact, it was challenging for the review panel to select the top 2, so we ended up with top 3. Really a great diverse group of entrepreneurs around the state, as well as just in ideas as well. So it's great to see the life of the entrepreneurial community here in New Mexico.
I'll chime in just to say what a great program that John and his team put together. Fantastic, both workshops and mentor coaches, and just a great crew of people. So big thanks to John. And I think between him and Alex and some of the other things going on in Santa Fe, Albuquerque and Santa Fe haven't always had our community together, but I'm seeing some real movement, especially around a couple of sort of data and tech and social enterprise sort of arenas in the Santa Fe area. And John's a big part of that. So big thanks, John.
Cool. Anybody else have a win they'd like to share? All right. And I just want to let everyone know, so we are going to look at going hybrid July 14th. So it means we will be live at Fat Pipe and we will be online. So if anyone can't make it to a Fat Pipe, or to a Fat Pipe, to the Fat Pipe, to the event, to 1 Million Cups, we'll also be online. So that is coming up soon.
We will have to cap the number of people in person, so there will be a formal registration process for you guys.
Yeah.
Eric, will it be available at all Fat Pipe locations? I mean, I don't know. I'm in Taos today with friggin' speedy internet. I have a gigabit here, so if anybody ever wants to come to Taos, you'll have great internet.
Cool. I think we're ready for rooms.
All righty, I'm going to turn